Hey, good afternoon. Chris Murphy here. Welcome to the conference call. We're just waiting for everybody to get settled in. We're going to get started here in about 9 minutes. So make yourself comfortable. Grab yourself a cup of coffee, something to drink, relax a little bit, and we're going to get started in just a sec. I'll be right back. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Chris Murphy here. We're just waiting for everybody else to hop on. We're going to get started here in about 6 or 7 minutes or so. So just get comfortable, and I'm glad you're here. We'll see you in just a bit. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Chris Murphy again, just waiting for everybody to arrive. We're going to get started here in about 4 minutes. Wanted to welcome you guys. I'm glad you're here. So sit back and relax, grab yourself something to drink, and we'll get started here in about 4 minutes. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Chris Murphy again. We're going to get started here in just a couple of more minutes. We're waiting for the rest of the folks to arrive. So get comfortable, and we'll get started here in just a bit. Thanks for coming. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Chris Murphy. Thanks for joining me today on today's call. We still have a few more people coming, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. Everything that we're going to be talking about today will be recorded, and you'll receive an email after today's call, and we'll get a copy of today's conference call recording. And I also will follow up with an email with any resources that I share with you as I move through the content today. So again, welcome to today's conference call titled Powerful Salon and Spa Recruiting with Evernote. All right, let me just make sure all of my stuff is working here on my end. Okay, so for those of you that don't know me or haven't been on previous calls, my name is Chris Murphy, and I am the founder of MotivePoint, which is an online website and resource that's designed for owners and managers and anyone in the salon and spa industry who's looking to run a better business using innovative practices, technology, that sort of thing. And the website is motivepoint.biz. I encourage you guys to visit my site and subscribe to my content. And every week or so, I usually update my blog with some sort of nugget or tip or of some sort. It tends to, my content tends to lean towards the technological side, where I use a lot of technology in our business. But everything that I share there is stuff that we use in our salons and spas. I consider my salons and spas, my test kitchens, and what works I share, and what doesn't I don't. So motivepoint.biz is my website. I'm also the co-owner of Maximum FX Salons and Spas here in Austin. It's a multi-million-dollar salon group. We've got 3 locations here in town, and like I said, I like to consider them my test kitchens, where I typically try different things that are innovative in running our businesses, and then share whatever works over on the motivepoint.biz website. I'm also involved with Strategies, which is a coaching and consulting company based in Cinderbrook, Connecticut, and we teach salon and spa owners how to run better businesses. It's the emphasis mainly on leadership, compensation systems, and so on and so forth. That website is strategies.com if you're interested in learning more about what we do over at Strategies. Before I get started, I'd like to kind of describe a little bit about how this whole thing is going to work. I'm going to spend about 45 minutes today talking to you about recruiting and how we recruit in our salons and spas. And then the last 15 minutes I'm going to spend with the Q&A in case you guys have any questions. Everything, like I've already mentioned, that I'm going to share with you has been tested in our salons for a minimum of at least the last 5 years. And I'm going to be demoing or demonstrating everything on a Mac. So I know that not everyone uses a Macintosh computer. Some of you have PCs or use Android smartphones. That's okay. Evernote will work on those platforms. And everything that I'm going to share is available to you on an Android or a PC. It just might look a little bit different, and where you tend to find things might be in a different area. But I am going to go ahead and demonstrate today on a Mac, because that's what I typically use on a day-to-day basis. Let's see here. The other part that I want to mention is that today is really about recruiting with Evernote, but it's also just about recruiting and how to get more applications, and how to build a solid recruiting program within your salon and spa operation, and then combining that with technology to amp it up and to really digitize the whole process, if that makes any sense. And so I'm going to be spending the first half of, or not really the first half, but the beginning of my call today talking to you about just our recruiting plan, our recruiting system at Maximum FX, and then the latter part on how we actually digitize it and streamline it using technology with Evernote. The other thing that's important for me to mention is that, why is this important? It's important because we were like most salons, where there was a time that we actually we would get 1 or 2 applications a week, or sometimes every 2 weeks, and that just wasn't enough as our salon was growing. And so through the process of creating a solid recruiting system, along with combining it with Evernote, we now are enjoying 1 to 2 applications every 1 to 2 days. So big difference. And I don't know about you, but as a salon owner, I love having my pipeline or my funnel filled with applicants, so that when things happen in the business or turnover occurs, I have a go-to resource that can help me replenish my staffing levels. So let's go ahead and get started. And I don't want to scare you with what I'm showing you here, but this is just I'm going to dive right in as our recruiting pipeline at maximum effects. And so I went ahead and put this together for you because I don't know about you guys, but I'm very visual, and so I like to kind of map out how our recruiting looks at maximum effects, and so that way it's just easier for you guys to understand. So let's talk about recruiting. Just like anything else in your business, if you don't have any kind of recruiting system in place, that's where you're going to want to start. You know, what gets attention gets results. And so if you're not happy with the number of applications that you're receiving on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, really map out what your recruiting plan or what your recruiting system is going to look like. And I encourage you to flow diagram the whole process. At Maximum Effects, we've got a series of steps that we go through when we're recruiting, and it seems like a lot of steps, but like I talked about on my last call, you know, culture really starts building a strong culture in your business starts with recruiting. And sometimes we have to learn to kind of slow the process down, to be a little bit more thorough in our process so that we get the right hire that matches our values and our shared vision and what we're trying to align ourselves with when we're building our team. So as you can see in the upper left-hand corner up here, we've got our funnel, and everything starts there. And so we got to get our funnel filled with applications and resumes. And once we start to fill our funnel, then we begin the process of pulling people through our recruiting pipeline. And the first step that we actually do is we go through, and if we like an applicant based on what they've filled out on their application or submitted through their resume, we automatically send them a list of 10 questions. And these are questions that really have nothing to do with the position. We're really just trying to dig a little deeper to find out more about the candidate's personality. And the reason why we like to ask the 10 questions is for a number of reasons, not just to get to know the personality, but also to see if they can write. We do a lot of content marketing in our business, and we're very blog oriented. And so we're trying to attract people that can write articles and actually share their knowledge through blog posts. And so asking them 10 questions and asking them to respond is also a way to see if they've got great writing skills. We also want to see how quickly they respond to our request. If we have someone that responds in the same day, then we know they're hungry. We know they're serious about joining our company, and they're excited about the opportunity. Some of these questions, just in case you're wondering, are things like, if you owned a boat, what would you name it and why? Or if you can invite 3 people to a dinner party, living or deceased, who would they be and why? Another question might be, what's the last book you read? You know, we like to see if people are readers, you know, leaders are readers. And if they're eventually going to become, you know, a manager or an educator, we want to know if they're constantly working on improving themselves by reading books and that sort of thing. So after we get the 10 questions back from the applicant, then we look them over, and if we want to continue, then we move forward to what we call the drive-by interview. And the drive-by interview is simply, it's a 30-minute interview where we actually set up the interview, and it's no longer than 30 minutes, and we ask a whole nother series of questions about the position, you know, why they want to work for the company. Just, it's really a drive-by to see how they sound over the phone. Do they sound enthusiastic? Do they sound like they're really interested in learning more about our company? We like to ask them things like, have you visited our website? And if you have, what stood out to you? What attracted you to our company? Those kinds of questions. And really, it's just for us to kind of gauge if just, you know, you can tell a lot from an individual just by how they carry themselves over the phone, the inflection in their tone, how they answer questions, how they kind of carry themselves. And so that gives us a good feel. It's almost like a filter as to whether we want to bring them into the salon. And so after that 30-minute drive-by interview, if we like them enough to bring them into the salon, then we'll have them come into the salon and we'll do what we call a working interview. And we'll send them an email that invites them into the salon, and we don't give them a whole lot of instructions. We do tell them what to expect. We tell them who to ask for when they come in. We show them where they can put their belongings. We ask them to dress for success, but we don't tell them what that is exactly, because we want to know in their mind what that looks like. And that's just a 1 to 2 hour working interview where we usually have them spend a lot of time in guest care, but we just have them kind of immerse themselves in our culture. And we encourage our team members to ask them all kinds of questions to get to know them, and vice versa. We encourage them to ask us questions, and it's just it's a way to see how they assimilate into our culture. If we like what we see, they show up professionally dressed. They've got a pep in their step. They've got initiative. They're not just standing around, but they notice things like, oh, I'm going to grab a broom and help sweep without having to be asked. They notice a stack of towels that need to be folded in the back, so they start doing that. These are the things that we look for, and if we see that initiative, then we'll bring them in for yet another interview. So this is the second visit to the salon, which is what we call the manager or the team lead interview. From there, that's a more traditional sit down interview where they sit and we ask them questions about their goals and such. And we have a whole list of questions, and I'll be sharing those with you after today's call in the form of an email. If the manager or the team lead that interviews is impressed and wants to continue, we invite them back, yes, again, for a third visit or a second interview, working interview. And the reason why we do that is because at this point in the game, when they come back, they're a little bit more relaxed, right? They tend to know what to expect. And so the real person, if you will, kind of emerges, and we start to see those real habits that the individual possesses. And so they start to ask other questions too, questions that they may not have remembered on the first working interview. The other thing is that we're more relaxed around them. We've had more time with them through the process. And so we're going to be more comfortable asking them questions, right? And so the second working interview is really a telling interview because we like to really probe as deep as we can to find out more about the individual. If we're impressed with them, and at this point we really do kind of know if they're a good fit for our culture, we invite them back in for an owner's interview. And the owner interview is really an interview that's more formalized, but it's almost kind of like a blessing, if you will. If they make it up to me, at that point the individual is more than likely a good fit for our company. Rarely does anyone ever make it up to that point unless they're kind of a done deal, if you will. And then lastly, we do an offer. We send them a written offer. And for some of you on the call, going through this, you might think to yourself, gosh, that's a lot of steps. I mean, I don't know if I can handle that many steps. And, we don't have the manpower or the ability to do that. I'm here to tell you that you can go as fast as you want through these steps, or you can go as slow as you want. It really doesn't necessarily matter. What matters is that you don't forget to skip any steps. Don't skip the steps. You go through every step, because when you start skipping steps and you start moving too quickly and you get in a rush, that's where you start to make really bad decisions. And that's where you start to end up with bad hires, which leads to a toxic culture, and it just goes down from there. So again, if you have this mapped out and you have different team members on your team helping you with certain points along the way, you can certainly spread out some of that responsibility. But I can tell you that when we actually were going through the process and re-engineering our recruiting at Maximum Effects, what we realized is that we were going too fast. We were just hiring warm bodies, and so we would hire them. They would come into the organization, and then they would stay for 4 to 6 months, and then we realized they weren't a good fit, and they quit, or we had to kick them off the bus. And so then we had to start over, right? And so we just lost 4 to 6 months of time, and it's bad for us, and it's bad for the departing team member. So we just wasted 6 months of valuable time. So we realized, well, if we're already wasting 4 to 6 months of time because of our recruiting system, let's slow down the process, take a little bit longer, get the right hire, and then we won't waste all of that extra time. If we get it right the first time, then we don't have to start over in 4 to 6 months. Does that make sense? So when you look at it like that, it's okay to slow down and really be thorough in your recruiting. So that's our recruiting at Maximum Effects, and it's really a step-by-step process. And we've been working with this system now for about 5 years, and I got to tell you that having the additional steps has really been helpful. Okay. So let's talk about filling your recruiting funnel. And so the funnel, if you look back up here, up in the upper left-hand corner, is where we everything starts. And so that's, I think, where the biggest challenge is for most salons is how do I fill my recruiting funnel? Because you've got to keep that funnel full because you just don't know from day to day when you're going to need to pull from that funnel. And so there's a number of different things that we do at Maximum Effects to fill the funnel. And I got to tell you that one of the things that we do the best and what we find is we prefer to recruit from cosmetology schools and bring them in and train them versus hiring experienced stylists. Now we're not opposed to hiring experienced stylists, but historically, when we look back, we found that the stylists that we recruit out of schools and cosmetology schools, they tend to be a little bit more loyal because we gave them that first shot out of school. But we also, they're more malleable. They tend to be like sponges, and they're easier to train because they're so new that they're just hungry for education. And so we just historically have found that even though it's more investment up front, that long term they tend to be more loyal. But like I said, we're not opposed to interviewing and recruiting experienced stylists, but we're just a lot more thorough in the recruiting process with them. And we typically like to hire experienced stylists that are moving into Austin from another city instead of from within the city. Because typically what we've found is when we hire from another salon, we're usually hiring someone else's problem. I shouldn't say that that's going to be the case all the time, and I don't want to lump everybody into the same bucket, but typically when we hire someone that's moving from a different city, it's a different type of applicant, a different type of reason for joining our company, and so for moving from one city to the next. So that's kind of our method of recruiting. So having said that, cosmetology schools are a great way to farm applicants and resumes, and there's a number of different things that you can do to really nurture that relationships with the schools. For one, if you're got a great relationship with a number of different schools, a lot of them will have what we call job fairs, where they will host salons that come in, and you can set up a table and gather resumes and applications and get to know the students that way. Another way to fill your funnel is to host your own in-salon classes. And this is a great way to recruit not just students, but anyone that's interested, that's got a cosmetology license, to come in and learn from your team. Now, one thing I will mention is that this is really powerful, the in-salon classes, and I don't see enough salons doing this. And one of the important reasons to note when it comes to in-salon classes is that this is an opportunity for you to post an invitation for school students to come in. And my recommendation would be to teach them what they can go back the very next day at school and practice. Things like shampooing and blow drying, or finishing, or using hot tools, things that they can get their hands dirty on and then come back to school and actually apply. It just really helps to bond that relationship that you have with them, and do that on a regular basis. Once a quarter, post an invitation. And I'm going to tell you that the students that tend to show up at these classes on their Sundays and Mondays when they're not in school, these are the ones that are driven. These are the ones that are career minded. So just by design, you're automatically filtering out the good from the average. And so that's a simple way to just get your team involved and engaged in the recruiting process and have them share their knowledge. And it doesn't have to be anything advanced or anything formal. It can just be a very informal gathering to where you're really just getting together with the students and sharing your knowledge, and while at the same time teaching them more about your business. What benefits you offer. What does your training program look like? It's just a little bit more relaxed setting to really get to know the students that you're recruiting. The other is offering an internship program. Some of the salons here in Austin that we network with have internship programs. We offer an internship program as well. Depending on the school and depending on the school schedule, you might be able to create an opportunity within your organization to allow students to spend a part-time, while they're not in school, part-time position where they're actually working in your space, to get to know what it looks like and what it feels like to work in a full-blown, high-end, full-scale salon. And so for us here in Austin, we're all lucky to have an Aveda Institute that offers a school schedule to where the students are in class 3 days and then they're not in class 3 days. So they have an A side and a B side. So there's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday class, and then there's a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday class. And so because of that, we're able to offer internships that are 3 days, and the intern usually spends most of their time in guest care. So they're helping, check people in. They're helping with hand massages. They're helping pre-book appointments, but they're just getting that hands-on knowledge in the salon. And at the same time, it allows us to really interview them for anywhere from 8 to 12 months. And what we have noticed over the last 4 or 5 years is that we have had a very high retention rate. About 85 to 90% of our interns typically stay on board and come on as either a colorist or a stylist. And it's great because we already know their work habits. They already know how we operate as a business. They know our systems, our culture. And so if they're going to last as an intern and they've done a great job, then it just goes without saying that you're going to have a lot better retention when it comes to bringing them on board. Now, we do make them interview all over again for the colorist position or the stylist position because they are moving from one department to another. But the internship program has been huge for us when it comes to recruiting top talent out of the schools. Not to mention, it helps us out on our guest care teams when we're looking at making sure that we're fully staffed on the front desk. So just a kind of a double bonus there when it comes to recruiting. All right, and then the last is social media advertising, and I could do an entire marketing call with you guys around social media advertising. But if you're not doing any sort of advertising on social media, my advice would be to do it, because you can do it for really, really cheap. I can tell you that you can run Facebook ads that will target cosmetology students for as little as $1 to $2 a day, and have it be an ad that links to your careers page, and drive that traffic to your website. And I'm going to tell you that we've been doing this for quite some time, and results are phenomenal because everyone is on their smartphones, including the students in the schools, and so you got to stay in front of them. It's just like your clients that you're trying to attract, new business. It's the same thing. You're marketing your business and you're attracting potential employees, and you're advertising them in many of the same ways that you would advertise for new business with clients. So social media advertising, we have the best luck with Facebook and Instagram. Facebook allows you to just really kind of carve out who your target audience is, and then create a really attractive ad that will then fall into those timeline feeds of potential candidates. And so these are really the most effective ways that we've filled our recruiting funnel, if you will, to keep it full. And hopefully this will help you out when you're looking to build your own recruiting plan in your salon and spa. And these are just some pictures of team members that have been out at job fairs. We've got banners, and we've got a culture video that we play, and so many of you may have these as well. I can tell you that the banners that you can purchase, you can actually get them for really, really cheap at Kinko's. I think they're less than $300, and it's easily portable. They're easy to take with you. They're great for getting your brand message or your brand identity out there. So just some pictures I thought I'd share to show you kind of what it looks like when we're out at the job fair. Okay, so I've spent a little bit of time talking to you about our recruiting plan. Now let's talk a little bit about Evernote and how when we combine the two, you can really create a system that is just solid and will definitely help you streamline things. But let's talk about what Evernote is, because a lot of people have heard of Evernote, but they don't really know what it does or how it works or how do you make it into a recruiting system, right? So in its basic sense, Evernote is really a cross-platform freemium app designed for note-taking, organizing, and archiving. It's basically in its basic form. Imagine it like a virtual filing cabinet that has notebooks, and inside those notebooks you can share notes. That's it. That is Evernote in its basic form. So given that, you can really kind of adapt it and make it really apply it to really serve you in so many different ways, not just with recruiting, but in other ways like becoming paperless, or storing receipts, or managing employee files, that sort of thing. So one of the reasons why we love Evernote at Maximum Effects, and not just with recruiting, but just in general, is that we know that everything that we store in Evernote is going to be stored in the servers, in the cloud, and it's going to be backed up daily, and it's peace of mind. We know where it is, we know how to find it, and it's just everything is in one place. The other thing that we love about Evernote is that as our company grows, so does Evernote. So our system, it allows us to grow quickly or slowly. It doesn't really matter. But as we grow, we can adapt Evernote to grow with us, and it's scalable. And so this is really where the power of Evernote comes into play, because we went from having 1 to 2 resumes or applications every 1 to 2 weeks to 1 to 2 every 2 or 3 days, or 1 to 2 days. And so as a result, we started getting more and more and more. And so we had to have a place to store all that information. And then we had a lot of information, we needed to be able to search for it and find things more quickly. And so having Evernote in place has really allowed us to stay organized and efficient. And I'm going to show you how storing everything in Evernote really allows you to be able to search quickly. Within hundreds and hundreds of applications, you can find things super, super fast. And you can search on a number of different items, such as location, where the note was formed, where you created the note. You might be able to search by name. You can search by all kinds of different ways to really drill down and find things inside of Evernote. So these are the reasons why we love Evernote. And I'm going to give you an example of what that looks like. So the other piece that's really, really important is that because Evernote works kind of with the cloud-based environment, you can have people all throughout the organization working off of the same information. And I can't tell you how important that is. So you imagine having a conversation with another manager in a different location about an applicant in the same space. And so there's no tripping over one another. There's no, oh, I'm working from an older application. Oh, this is a different resume. It's all in one place. And whether you have multiple locations or just one location, it's so important that you have your team members working from the same information, and everything is being stored in one place so that there's no confusion. And it really becomes more important when you do have multiple locations. But here's the really cool thing. It doesn't have to be just the Salon location. You can be working out of the recruiting system from virtually anywhere, from home, or even a job fair. We have, when we go to job fairs, we have team members that are actually inputting information about applicants into our Evernote in real time. And we could have managers back at the salons receiving that information and setting up interviews within the same day. Oftentimes before the job fair is even over. So that really, obviously, is impressive, not only for the team that's working the recruiting system, but also for the students that are actually interviewing. They love to see that we're on top of things. And so I can't tell you how just that one thing has been really, really key and important to us, as far as really streamlining things. And it kind of goes back to that friction. There's a lot of friction if you don't have something that's helping you kind of streamline things. And what I mean by friction is that everything's slow. If you have applications that are coming in through email, applications that are coming in from people that are walking in and dropping off applications, you might have someone that's actually mailed you a physical copy of their application, so you just have crap everywhere. And if you don't have a system to kind of store it all in one place and get it into that space really quickly, then you have all that friction, and it's hard. It's hard to work within that space. So Evernote will help to eliminate all that friction and help to open up everything and really allow you to move a lot faster than you are now. Now, I'm not paid by Evernote. I am an ambassador of Evernote, but I am not paid by them to promote their software or anything like that. But I do want to go over the different levels because some of you may or may not have an Evernote account that's on the call. There are 3 different membership or account levels that you can participate in. My recommendation would be, if you're the owner of the salon, to invest in the per year license, which is $50 per year. It's going to give you everything you need in order to do what you need to do. It has the most features that are with the subscription, and then everybody else in the beginning can usually get by with just the basic, with the free a free app. Subscription. So have one be the premium, and then as you grow into the system and you find that you're needing more firepower, then you can upgrade the rest of your team members. I can tell you that we have our whole company on Evernote. Everyone has a Evernote account, but I only have paid subscriptions for my leadership team. Those are my power users. They're the ones that are digging into Evernote every day, and they're working out of Evernote every day. And so I want to make sure they have all of the features that they need. And so I do have them signed up with a premium subscription. So just to kind of give you an idea, you don't have to have everybody on a premium subscription. That can get kind of expensive really fast, but you can still get by with even the basic version. Okay, so let's talk about the structure and mechanics of Evernote. So Evernote, I've talked a little bit about, there's notes, and then there's folders or notebooks inside of Evernote. Notes can be a format, just think of it like a Word document. And on that Word document, you can put in text. You can actually clip a web page that's active with hyperlinks inside of the note. You can actually attach a photograph. You can even record a voice memo to a note where it's an MP4 file that actually is attached to the note. So if you want to leave a voice memo of some sort, you can do that. You can even use a handwritten ink note, meaning you can write something and then scan it right into Evernote in the form of a note. And so notes can really contain a lot of information, not just typed text. And then there's notebooks. So within the notebooks, you store notes. And so notebooks can be used to store the notes. And then you can even organize those notebooks in different stacks based on how you're using Evernote. And then the really powerful thing, this is really where Evernote gets really powerful, is that you can share those notebooks with different team members, and you can control the permissions, who has access to which notebooks. And if they do have access, do they have read-write access, or do they just have read-only access? So Evernote does a great job managing the security around each of the notebooks, if that makes any sense. Okay, so let's go back to the recruiting pipeline that I shared with you earlier, just so I can refresh your memory here. So we've got all of our, our what is it, 6-step process, our 6-step interview process. So what we did is we took this flow diagram, which is our pipeline, and we just recreated that in Evernote. So if you notice, each of the different steps along the way, we created a notebook for each of our interview steps. And it's almost like, think of it as a bucket system. So when we receive an application, then we create a note and we store that note. We actually email the application into Evernote, and it converts that application into a note automatically. And then we just kind of drag and drop the note into each of the buckets, if you will, depending on where they are in the interview process. And so when you log into Evernote, into my Evernote or our Evernote, you can see all of the different, there's a few extra notebooks that we've created to help us facilitate the interview process. But you can see, do you see the familiar titles, resumes, job fairs? We have drive-by interview, first working interview, and then off to the side are the different number of applicants. That's the number of notes that are contained within each notebook. So we can kind of at a glance see how many people we have in our recruiting pipeline and where they are in the process. And so we just basically took our pipeline and recreated it in Evernote. And so One thing about Evernote that's important for you guys to understand is that it's really important to understand how to get information into Evernote. And there's two primary ways of doing that. The first is your Evernote email address. So when you sign up for Evernote, you're going to get a unique email address assigned to your account. And the way you find that is if you log into evernote.com and click on account summary, account info, and then more account settings. Under account summary, you can see down here it says email notes to, and it's a really long email address. So you're not going to remember what it is. So my advice to you would be to create a contact in your address book called Evernote, and then put that email address inside of the email field inside that contact. So that way, when you're emailing things using your email, you can just type the word Evernote in the to field, and it'll automatically pull that email address in. And so say you get a resume or an application emailed to you and you want to get that into your Evernote recruiting system, you would just forward that resume right into Evernote. And then you can drag that note right into that notebook called resumes, or that notebook called job fairs. The other way of getting information quickly into Evernote for the purposes of recruiting is to scan the actual application or the resume into Evernote. I got to tell you, the app called Scannable is the best scanning app out there on the market. And even if you don't use Evernote, you should have Scannable anyway, because you can scan all kinds of things and store it on your phone. You can email it to someone without even having used Evernote. So it integrates really well with Evernote because it was created by the folks over at Evernote. So those two are going to be super, super powerful. They're a must-have combination, Evernote and Scannable. If you go to the App Store, you can search for Scannable and download it, and it'll ask you to log into your Evernote account. So it automatically syncs in the background. So when you hit scan, it automatically gives you the option to just import that scanned document right into Evernote. So it's super, super seamless and super quick. So those are really the two biggest ways of getting people. There's more ways than that to get information into Evernote, but for the purposes of recruiting, those are going to be your two big must-have combinations of getting information into it. So I'm going to try to go over and share a different screen. So bear with me here for a second. I'm going to pull up my own Evernote and just show you really quick the anatomy of a note. And so what I have in front of me is basically our Evernote account, and you can see where I am actually in the resumes notebook. And here are the 10 questions that we actually we use. Hold on a second. Here are the 10 questions. So we just store that at the very top. And so when we receive an application, we just copy and paste this and send this over to the applicant. But I wanted to just give you an example of what a note looks like. You can see here that on March 8th, Lila, who is my HR manager, emailed the 10 questions. You can see that she forwarded an email right into Evernote along with the application that the applicant sent in. And all the information, as you can see, is contained in this one note. Over to the side over here, and if I open this up, it's going to open a different window, and you won't be able to see it because I'm only able to share one window at a time. But this is where you can control the permissions of the note if you want to share this with someone else inside the company. And then if you go over here to notebooks, and you can see we've got a stack created. So we've got all of our recruiting notebooks organized in one big stack. And if I wanted to share that notebook, I can actually share it by clicking on the share button there. And I can share it with anyone in the organization. And then I can control, if they have read-write access or if they have just read-only access. So it really helps to really protect the information and allows you to share and to communicate within your organization with other team members. Hopefully this is making sense. I know that I've only got an hour to kind of go over this stuff with you, but really in a nutshell, it's that bucket system. It's just dragging and dropping. So if we find someone that we really like, we can actually drag this right over into a different notebook or whatever notebook that corresponds to the steps of our interview process. And so what's really powerful is that I don't have to be on top of my HR manager on a daily basis. I instead step into Evernote and I can see, how many people, do we have in our drive-by interview step, or how many people are in our first working interview step, or how many people are set up in the second working interview. So everyone's working from the same place, and we don't have to chase each other down to find out how we're doing in recruiting. Does that make sense? So hopefully this is kind of getting some ideas going in your head regarding Evernote and recruiting. All right, let me see if I can't get switched back over into, let's see, my slide presentation. I'm only able to share one window at a time, so wish I could do my whole desktop. That would be nice. Okay, so going back to recap, again, everything in one place. Evernote is it's fantastic because it's stored in the cloud. Everything is backed up. It gives us the peace of mind knowing that everyone's working from the same information. It's scalable, so as we grow, primarily Lila is our human resource manager, and she manages our entire recruiting pipeline. And as you can see, we've got hundreds of applications that are in there, and one person can handle that, and it's all organized neatly so that it is easier to manage because we've got it into a system. And we could have 600 emails and applications and resumes in there and still manage it just fine. She's responsible for making sure things are moving through the steps and moving through the notebooks. But then we've got other managers and other team members in the organization that are also working out of those notebooks and facilitating the recruiting process and working alongside Lila as well. So being able to create that system and that structure and that framework has allowed us to get everybody involved and share the workload. But you got to be organized and efficient with it, and Evernote helps us do that. And then the last piece is the searchability. I didn't spend a whole lot of time with that, but if you're already working with Evernote, you'll know that it has lightning fast search. So if you happen to know the first name of an applicant, but you're not quite sure of the last name, you can put in their first name and it'll just automatically carve out of the database, everyone that's in Evernote with that first name. You could even have, the other thing that Evernote does that's really great is that it has the capability of, it's called optical character recognition. So it'll actually recognize text inside of a picture. So if you actually happen to take a picture of something that has text in it and you do a search in Evernote, it'll actually find that note and that picture inside of Evernote. So it's got incredible search capability. That's really what Evernote's known for, is the searchability. So that's pretty much our recruiting system in Evernote. I want to make sure that I have some time available for you guys for questions regarding anything that we do in our salons as far as recruiting and how we use Evernote for recruiting. So with that, I am going to ask my friend Elise, who is actually assisting me. She's actually moderating the call today. If you have any questions, you can type the questions in over to the right-hand side. There's a little chat button that says write your message here. If you type a message in there, I can certainly read off the question and answer them for you. And just while I'm waiting for that, just so you guys know, I will be sending you some resources. Be on the lookout in the next couple of hours. I will be sending you some of the questions that we use in our interviews step-by-step process. And so just be on the lookout for that, along with a copy of a recording of today's call. So if anybody has any questions, please type them in and I will do my best to answer them for you. If you think of something after the call and you have questions, you can always email me at chris@motivepoint.biz. That's chris@motivepoint.biz. I'm always available to answer any questions for you. All right. And again, over to the right-hand side, there is a message that has write your message here. If you want to type in any messages, that's where I will see your questions if you have any questions. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead and type them in there, and I will do my best to answer them for you. There's a little bit of a lag. Okay, There we go. So Demetra's got a question, and she's asking, do you do the funnel with all your positions? Yes. One thing I didn't mention earlier is actually I will share my screen with you. I will go to our website and I will show you. That's a great question, Demetra. Let me pull up our website. So the other piece that I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough time to share it with you, but the other piece is part of your recruiting is to really make sure you have a really attractive careers page on your website. This is the first place that a lot of people will learn about your company. And so you want to make sure that you have every opportunity to share with them what your culture is like. We've got a culture video that we've plugged in using YouTube. But then over here, we've got all of our different positions. And so we like to post everything that we're offering, not offering, but we're recruiting for. And I got to tell you, whether we're recruiting and have openings or not, I leave them open all the time because you just never know. It doesn't hurt to always be interviewing and recruiting, even when you're not hiring. Because again, in our industry, as you know, you just don't know. Yes, so if you go to our careers page, you'll notice that there's a separate page that details all of the positions that we recruit for. So the way we fill our funnel and the way we know, what we're recruiting for is that, we post job postings for each of the positions. And there's a website that I'm going to introduce to you guys that you might want to consider looking at. You might want to write this down. It's called jazz.co. That's the website, and it's free to use. There's a paid subscription, but we don't even use the paid subscription. It's just complimentary, and so you can actually create your job position details on the jazz.co website, and then they have a little snippet of code that you can plug into your website right onto your careers page that will allow you to update your job posts, and they can actually apply for the position right from within your website, which is really nice. And this automatically gets emailed to Lila, and then she emails that information right into Evernote. So oftentimes, to answer your question, Demetra, oftentimes what we have is applicants that are finding us from our website, and then they're applying, and we know what they're applying for just because they've actually clicked on the position that we have available. Does that make sense? So again, this is actually free to use, believe it or not. And what's really cool is that they can apply with LinkedIn. So that if they have a LinkedIn profile, they can actually populate everything using their LinkedIn profile information. They can attach their application or their resume along with everything that you have here. And you can even customize the fields that are here as well, which is kind of cool. So here you can see they can attach the resume, that sort of thing. So again, yes, to help kind of streamline things, we like to try to guide them into the funnel based on the position that we're recruiting for. And the way we do that is by creating all of the positions that we're recruiting for here on our homepage. I'm sorry, our careers page. Great question. What other questions do you guys have? Natalie, what is your employee retention currently versus before the funneling system? Great question. So on my last call, the one regarding culture, we actually shared that information, and we actually have a really high staff retention. And the last time we checked, in the last 6 years, we went from, sadly 60% staff retention to 89, 90% over the last couple of years, and that's including guest care. And we attribute that to not just really slowing down our recruiting and getting that right and finding the right people that match our culture, but really going beyond that and establishing our values and our purpose as a company and putting that in place first, and then recruiting based on those values. And so yes, we've definitely noticed a higher staff retention with this new recruiting system. Absolutely. Great question. Jamie has a question, and she says, have you found Evernote to be effective for other purposes within your salon, or is recruiting your main function? That's a great question. We started actually using Evernote as just a place for us to digitize information. So we would scan all of our invoices from various vendors into Evernote, and it kind of became our virtual filing cabinet. And we had different notebooks set up for receipts. We had one for invoices for different vendors, and we kind of grew into Evernote. And we're still finding uses for it. But that was really the first thing that we use it for, and we still use it for invoices because you just never know when you're going to need to do some digging to find a paid invoice that a vendor maybe is thinking isn't paid. And so that's what we use it for sure. We try to be as paperless as possible using Evernote. We also use it for our training program. So we have got our entire training pipeline. I shared with you our recruiting pipeline. Well, we've got flow diagrams for everything in our business, and so we've got an entire flow diagram for our training processes. And we've actually created a set of notebooks and modules, if you will, for all of our training. And we've digitized all of our information in Evernote. And what makes it great is that you can actually update information, and it gets updated instantly on everybody's devices, because remember, everyone's syncing up to the same database. So when you're really updating your education program or anything regarding anything inside of Evernote, then it just gets all updated instantly. And so everybody's, again, up to date, working with the latest and greatest information that you got out there. Training manual. We actually have everybody's employee files in Evernote. So we've got their W-2s, we got all their, everything that we normally have a physical copy of, we actually create a digital copy, so that way if we need to access information quickly on an employee, regardless of where we are, we've got all that information at our fingertips. And so we actually have all of our employee. We've got a notebook called Active Employees, and then we've got a separate notebook for each employee that we've created, and we have all their information in there. The other another use for Evernote that we use it for is for performance coaching. So we've got we have a note created for and it's in their file that their managers have access to, and we document conversations that we have in our coaching, whether it's goal setting, whether it's whatever it is that we want to make note of, so that when we meet again, we have a set of notes that we can work off of. And so we definitely use it for coaching with our team members. And we talked about coaching last time on my last call. So that's a great question. So yeah, we're still finding uses for Evernote, but Evernote is our information hub. We've got Salon Biz, which is our point of sale system that tracks all of our inventory purchase, our sales and our appointments and that sort of thing. Evernote is our information hub, where we store all of the information that we collect and gather and use in our salons and spas. Lynn has a question: what is Work Chat used for and how? Work Chat is a feature inside of Evernote that is, it's almost like a chat function or a chat feature where you can communicate with other people that are using Evernote. So if you want to share a notebook or share a note, you would use that. It's actually, that's where the notifications are stored. You're sharing information, it'll show up in your chat. So if I want to share a note or a notebook with someone, I would share it, and then wherever I share it, it pop up in your chat. It says, hey, Chris is sharing. Chris wants you to take a look at this note. Chris wants you to take a look at this notebook. So you can use chat to have a conversation inside of Evernote with someone, or you can actually use it to share notes in this book. So it's a great question. All these are great questions. I can take a couple more questions. It looks like we got some more time. Hillary, I wish I had started Evernote when you talked about it 3 years ago. I'm a premium member and uploaded the 10 gig in 3 days. Any advice how not to fill up your 10 gig space? If anyone is not using Evernote, start now. There are YouTube videos. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how you managed to upload or fill up the entire 10 gigabytes. I've yet to meet anyone that actually do that. So I don't know if you are uploading a lot of images, but you can actually increase your storage if you need to. I'm not familiar with that because we have a ton of information in our salons, and I don't think we've come close to. We might want to take this conversation offline, and we may need to find a little bit more out about what it is that what you're doing. If you're utilizing the upload 10 gig because you're allowed a certain amount per month to upload and download. And so maybe you uploaded a ton of information, and once it's uploaded, then it starts over every month. So email me at chris@motivepoint.biz, and I'll be happy to dig a little deeper with you to find out more. But it's really kind of hard to to fill up that 10 gigs of space. And like Hillary said, there's a ton of tutorials on Evernote on how to use it. So thank you for that suggestion. I can take one more question, and then we'll wrap it up. Just anybody else that has a question? Would love a webinar with you sharing your training program. Yes, I will make note of that. If any of you have any other challenges or areas in your company where you'd like me to spend a little bit more time, whether it's on a conference call or a blog post, please type them in the comment section so that I can make note of that. And so, yes, I definitely have plans to share our training program, how we incorporate that into Evernote as well. Makes our educators' lives so much easier, especially when they're training out of all the different locations. So if there's anything else, that you're struggling with, or, maybe it's operationally or whatnot, where you would like to learn more on how we do those things, please put them in the chat box, and I will definitely make note of that. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this call. I'm going to leave the chat room open in case any of you guys have any additional questions. We can kind of answer them through chat. But for those of you that need to move on, I'm going to go ahead and in the actual call portion, but I will leave the chat room open for you. So with that, I wanted to definitely thank you guys, and I hope that you got some value in today's call and got some ideas on how you can open up your recruiting and really blow it up and get some results from it. I'm available again at chris@motivepoint.biz. If you have any additional questions, feel free to email me. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and sign off, but I'm going to leave the chat room open, and I'm going to hang around for an additional 5 minutes or so in case you guys have more questions. So thank you again, and we'll see you on the next call.